Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to my weekly Node-RED development live stream. Hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world, whatever time you're watching this. So this is, if you're new around here, this is an hour or so of me doing some development work on the Node-RED project. So developing Node-RED itself rather than using Node-RED. Do say hi in the chat. Do leave a comment on YouTube if that's your thing. Otherwise, we're going to jump straight into some work. I don't want to overrun a bit too much tonight. It's been it's a public holiday in the UK today, so I've only turned my laptop on for the first time this weekend about an hour ago. So let's see what we get up to tonight. Jim Bob Scorchy, great to see you there. Micho, great to have you back. Say hi in the chat if you're there. If you have any questions as we go, do ask. If you do spot me doing something silly, do point it out in the comments, because quite a few times you guys have asked good questions that have helped me do the right thing in the coding and whatever it is I'm up to. So, what are we up to tonight? Well, there's a few features that have been added to Node-RED over the last year, maybe, that in the editor has, there's a particular piece of code that's been copy and pasted into a few different places, modified slightly in a couple of them, which is ripe for being all brought back together into a utility function that's in one place, which will make it easier for other things to use that code without having to keep copying and pasting it around. And in particular, what we care about is, let me switch my view. Here we are. When you look at, in the editor, we've got the outline view in the sidebar. We've got search results. Is that no bad example? There we are. And some others. But what they have in common is they want to be able to display the icon of a node in this box and its label, with the label properly honouring the actual label of the node as it would appear in the workspace. So yeah, we have it over in the outliner. And one thing you might notice, it's subtle but it's important, the search results icon is big, and the outliner ones are slightly smaller. Somewhere else those icons appear. Smaller still is the quick add dialog. So that's another example. And there are some others. And at the moment, that's just a piece of some code that's been copied around into various places. And I want to bring them all together into a single utility to make life better. And that's what we're here to do. So let's have a little guided tour of how this is working at the moment. So we're in the source code, packages, node modules, at Node-RED, editor client, source. So this is all the source code for the editor. JS, all the JavaScript. What we're going to do is sort of work backwards. So is there a way to use custom icons and change icon and text color for nodes? So yes, Noxy Boy. Nodes, if you go, all nodes have this appearance tab in their edit dialog where you can go and change their icon. So that's useful if you want to, well, that can be useful. It's a restricted set of the Font Awesome 4.7 icons, but yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in there. Good enough for the time being. You can't change the color of the node. The only type of node you can change its color is the subflow, because that's kind of entirely up to you, and that's on the subflow definition itself. You can sort of pick one of this from this palette, or you can just type in the hex code yourself. Yeah, there we are. So anyway, back to the subject. What we're going to do is start with the outliner. So start with the code that deals with this sidebar over here and sort of work back from there, because one of the reasons this code gets copied and pasted is I've never done a proper audit of everywhere that wants to be able to do this. And yeah, so it ends up being just the easy route, just to copy and paste the code and then customize it. And that's what we're going to get away from. So I think in here I've got get node label, I believe. So this is the function that gets called this gets called in a few different places, but effectively wherever the outline view wants to get the wants to get what needs to appear on here. So you should clarify, yes, in the chat, absolutely. A custom node can set its color and provide whatever icon it wants, but you can't, as an end user, change the color of a node in Node-RED. If you're creating a custom node, like a subflow is, or your own package from scratch, you can do whatever color you want. Because when it's your own package, you can provide your own icon image file, so you can do whatever icon you want. So yes, custom nodes can do whatever they want, except the text color for the nodes. They can't do that. That is part of the overall editor theme. Okay, so what are we looking at here? This is the function that gets passed a node instance, n, and it constructs, let's go and if we inspect, maybe this will, no. Okay, so what we are getting at is, it creates a div of this red UI info outline item, which is here. You can see it starts here. And within that, it has a search result node. And if you can just sort of see when I hover that, what it highlights. So that gives us the node icon blob. Then it has a UI search result description. And you can already see from the class names, there's a lot of copy and paste going on here because we're in the outline widget and we're using classes talking about search results. So this is part of what we're tidying up today. We're going to end up with a utility function and a clean set of class names that can be safely reused for all this stuff to get consistency. So we've got the outline item, we've got the node, we've got its description, and then specific to the outliner, we've got this div which contains the buttons over on the right hand side. That's not part of what we care about. But it's an example of, well, here's something that wants to generate this node icon and description plus some other stuff. What we want to do is make a bit more of a utility that gives us the node and its description and and does a good job of that. So again, let's look in here. So here we've got the top level div. We've already got a utility for creating a node icon. Now that's curious. I didn't think right, okay, so we've already got that. Now I came to a conclusion that didn't exist, but it does exist. Let's go have a look at that. Get node label. No, it wasn't, sorry, it wasn't get node label, it was create node icon. here we go. So create node icon. Yeah. Okay, well that's perfect. So we already have a utility function that creates the icon piece, but what we want is actually not just the node icon, but the node icon plus the div next to it. Because again, there's a bunch of boilerplate stuff going on here that we want to get rid of. So yeah, so there we create the node icon. Let's just break this up a bit. Then the next bit is concerned with creating the div containing the description. So you can just see here it says timestamp, that bit there. So let's go look what this does. So it creates the div to contain it. Then it calls get node label text. So this is a local function in the outliner. And I suspect this is boilerplate code that can be moved. So we've given the node, it either does the name or the node type and its ID. However, if the node's definition provides its custom label function, which most do, it then either, well, if it's a function, it calls it, otherwise it uses its value. And then it does the new line handling, because we support node labels having new lines in, and this does a fairly crude split. In fact, for the purposes of this, if it has new lines in, this just gives us the first line and then a dot sort of ellipsis saying it's been truncated, because in this outline view we don't want multiple line labels, we want sort of the single line. So that exists. If I just pull over, actually no, that's probably going to be too small for you guys to see. I know in here there is get node label, which actually does a lot of the same work. So let's yeah, I'm going to put them up next to each other. If I hide the sidebar, if I disable minmap, then yeah, that gives us, I'll make it a little bigger. So over here we've got get node label text. Oh, I've upset things by, hopefully it's not going to keep happening. So get node label and get node label text. So here we have the utility function that's already in place. If we just glance through, you can see that get node label, it already deals with, this is no fun. Right, highlight selected package. 1 second, let me, atom preferences. If it's going to keep, I like highlight selected, but we're just going to disable it for the moment because I don't want it to keep shouting at me every time I highlight something. Okay, so this handles passing in a tab, it handles passing in a group. Otherwise, it does the work to call the label if it exists. If it doesn't exist, then it will use the default label, and then it does some BiDi stuff, which it's bidirectional text handling, which is something we've never fully properly followed through on. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut back some of this code. So get node label text, we're using a few places in here. We want to get to the point where we can call red.utils create get node label for the node. Now, what do we want its default value to be? Well, we want the default value, if there's nothing, to be its type followed by its ID. As you can see up here, this is basically essentially doing what we do up here. In fact, we'll default to the name or that, just to be completely consistent. Now that would do. In fact, if we just save that, I'm going to get rid of that whole function in a second. And this is the goal, is to remove code. I mean, that's why we're doing this. Oh, error. Red is not defined. Why is red not defined? What? Let's run. Why is red not defined? What have I done? Huh? What have I broken? So it's that's all working. Ooh, lots of errors. Okay. But if I mismatched my number of brackets, yeah, there we go. I got my brackets wrong, so there was no worries. So we refresh that now. What loads? Don't worry about the ping message. That was me debugging something earlier. But the point is, over in the outline sidebar, see, we still get all the right labels. But if you remember me saying, we do support putting \n, saying hi there, giving you a label that looks like that. We've had an error down there because I've commented out get node label text and I forgot it gets called in other places. So let's just refresh for the moment. Over here now, you can see the label. It's got the \n, whereas before that would have got truncated. It's now showing the full thing with the \n in. I'm going to leave it like that for the time being. I can sort of live with that. So here's the call to the utility function that we're going to make use of now. Good. Right, I lost where I was. So we can delete some code, which is always good, and make better use of the utilities we have, which is equally good. Now, what we're going to do is simplify this code some more. So we have a utility create node icon, and then we have this code which creates the label. What would be nice is to have create node icon optionally give us both the icon and the label to go with it. I think that would be nice. Seems a reasonable thing for it to do. So create node icon. So here's that utility function. And we're going to add another argument to this function to say include label. And we'll pass true to create node icon now. And this will do the work So that's all the work to create the icon. This is the work to create the label, and in this function rather than n it's node, so let's just tidy that up. But at the moment this just returns the div, the node div. If we want to include the label as well, we need to wrap, I think that's right, yeah, we need to wrap them both. So we're going to say create a container, or have a variable for our container. Is that what we're going to do? No, we're not. No, we're not. We're going to come down here. So at this point down here, node div is the div containing the icon. If we say include, what do we say? Include label, then create a container. We're just going to use a span for now. I think we should be okay. And oh dear, just hit home by mistake. So create a container. We'll stick our content div, which is what's going to contain the label, into that container. In fact, what we first need to do is do node div append to that container. Then we append the label and we will return the container. Otherwise, we'll just return the node div, which is what we were doing before. Okay. So now, let's find the, okay, so create node icon doesn't get called anywhere else, except there was somewhere else where we were updating the label. Yeah. So here's the logic that updates. Oh, that's right, because icons can't change. Node icons can't change. So this checks to see if the icon, whenever a node's been edited, we might have to change its label. So this gets the updated text, and then this goes and delves into the structure to update the text field. Now, we're going to change some of these classes, so we must remember to come back and fix some of these classes, I think. Is that right? Yeah. See, we are appending that class, but we're going to come up with a better set of class names for all this stuff in a minute. Right. Let's just reload and check everything's looking good still. Yep, still getting all the labels. Everything's positioned correctly. And I want to check positioning because it's now we've got this span containing both the label and the icon. But that's fine. That is looking good. Okay. Okay, what next? What next? Let's go back to where we were. Ooh. Atom has been playing up for me recently, so sometimes I get very confused. Right. Create. So this is good. We've deleted that whole function. We've got this down now to a bunch of sort of utility calls, which is nice. And the next thing I want to do is standardize the class names that are being used for all of these things. So let's go find, no, don't go there, don't go there. Can't remember the keyboard shortcut to open up this sidebar. One sec. There we are. So at the moment, we are creating a bunch of stuff in an element called red UI info outline item. So let's go and find where that's defined. A few places, but I think this is the pertinent one. Because in here, you can see there's a bunch of nested under red UI info outline item. In fact, not nested under that. We don't care about that. It's this stuff we care about. This is the CSS, which makes what's otherwise a big icon smaller. And so it's overriding a bunch of styles defined elsewhere, which, yeah, it's because it's spread all over the place. The goal now is to have a standard set of classes that pull those together and can be reused. Because if you look up here, if you're familiar with, so here I'm defining all the different parent classes that this stuff applies to. So you can see it's in the outliner, the help sidebar table of contents, in the clip import conflicts list dialog, the export preview. So these are all the places that have the copy and paste code that our goal is to tidy up and make it much nicer. Okay. So in some ways there's, just think through what's the, this is one of those things that has to get worse before it can get better. We're going to break some stuff and then pull it back together. But first we need to kind of understand the structure of what we're dealing with. So, let's have a close, oh, that didn't help. That didn't help at all. So I've just copied out the HTML that we're generating. I'm just laboriously relaying it out so we can see the structure. Good. Right, and if I change this to HTML, there, a bit of syntax highlighting. So you can see all these class names. Let's do one thing at a time. Let's think about the node itself. So what have we got? It's the key class here is red UI search result node. Okay, so that's where all of this started. Our search results dialog and the styles I created for these icons. Okay, so that should be in here. Yeah, red UI search result node. So this sets up all the basic properties. It's width, height, the border, yeah, loads of stuff. And that's the CSS style of the search results in this drop-down dialog. So you can see width 30, height 25, things like that. And then my search results have closed, which is never What this then does is somewhere amongst all of this, here we go, red UI search result node. If we're dealing with it in the outliner, you can see it sets a slightly smaller width and height and margin, so it just makes it smaller. So what would be nice is to have a way just to set a parent class once and have like a modifier class to say whether you want it to be the big icon or the small icon, rather than at the moment I'm having to say, well, the outliner wants small icons, help table of contents wants small icons. Semantically, that's wrong. It should be the outliner sets a small icon class and the table of contents sets a small icon class, rather than me having to keep adding different UI components that should inherit this smaller stuff. Okay, so I think the first thing to do is I want to come up with a better set of names here. So at the moment we've got red UI search result node, which is, yeah, I'm going to rewrite. I'm going to slightly rewrite this to show sort of the nesting of the CSS. Now, palette icon and palette icon container, I'm less worried about those. I think I'm less worried about those. Maybe I'm not. Yeah, so palette icon, yeah, so you see we're having to customize their sizes as well, so they need dealing with. Right, so what we're going to do is rename this to be red UI see, red UI node is tempting, but it's perhaps a little too high level and generic. What? Just remind myself, what are these? Yeah, these are palette label, palette icon. That's where the palette names have come from. If we do red UI node icon, red UI node icon container. See, the goal here is to try and get some consistency in naming so that things all look like they come from the same place. So that ends up being node icon. Well, search is, I mean, this is the interesting problem, right? When we are just talking about this dialogue, then yeah, search is the right term. But over here, it's not search. And in the export, yeah, here's another instance. That's not search. And I've got other examples waiting to use this code, which is why I'm working on it tonight. So yeah, it's never quite sat right that semantically it's not about search results. And yeah, so we'll have red UI node icon, red node icon container, and icon. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that. It looks a bit silly, but I'm going to stick with that for now. And then when we come down here, we've got search result description, which contains, at the moment, 2 classes, but let's worry, well, no, we have to worry about them both. to see what the cumulative effect of them is, to understand. So we're going to have red UI node label, I think. And then node label text. Because that's what actually contains the text. I think it kind of depends what... Yeah, okay, so this is why. Let's go back into the search results and understand why have I done it with two... Why is it already nested divs when it shouldn't be? Or, yeah, you know. So let's find... Okay, so that sets a left margin. So that's, yeah. Search result node label. Yeah, red eye search result node label. Ah. So I don't think they need to be nested. I think... Sorry, I just need to do a quick detour. Well, I need to go look at something which is a few steps further on than where I plan to get to. Because my worry is I make a bad assumption at this point, which sort of derails what we're trying to do, or makes life hard later. Okay, so that's not being found. That is being found. Okay. Oh, I see. Right. So it's slightly different in the search results, because if we inspect, here you can see we've got the description class, and in that it's got then lots of subdivs for all the different bits beneath it. And that's always going to be a bit special to the search results, I think, which has all this other metadata. It isn't just showing the node and... okay. Man, this sort of stuff, it's quite hard to keep straight when you're doing it yourself. When you're also trying to narrate as you go, it is, yeah, a bit mind-bending. Right, what we're going to do is we want to get to the point where see, I think this div is not needed. Right, one step at a time. Let's start defining these somewhere. Where are we going to define them? At the moment, because it's coming out of search results, they're in search. So to begin with, I'm going to put them in here. I just need to find the right. I mean, the fact I'm detangling this mess is kind of the reason why this so desperately needs doing. So to begin with, I'm just going to define exactly what I'm just going to do it this way. So essentially these two things reference exactly the same set of styles, which is that. But in my experience, far more places want the smaller node than the bigger node. So in some ways it would it make more sense for the default to be big? For the default to be the smaller icon. And then have a modifier if you want the large icon. I think that's true. But well, we'll go with it until it stops being true, if that makes sense. So that's going to pick up exactly the same, and there's a lot of tidy up to do here, which I'm not going to do on camera. So UI node icon is now picking up the same style as search result, but then we shrink its width and height and margin top, and that's what we want. Then we're going to define palette icon container. Let's go find that again. And this, like I said, this is the reason I'm having to do this work, because this code is split all over the shop. And it would feel much nicer if this was all in one place. Anyway, whilst I do this, I hope you're all keeping well. You know what? Tomorrow morning, I have to get up early, get the kids to school, and then I go and get my first vaccine. I finally got old enough, or certainly in this country, as they're lowering the age of who can sign up to get their COVID vaccine, my age group became eligible middle of last week, and I've got booked in. So first jab, first thing tomorrow morning, which is a good way to start the week. Yeah. See, this is really testing me now, talking about other things whilst I try and focus on this ridiculous amount of copy and paste. So I'm also quite conscious for all the custom themes that are out there. I don't want to remove any. I'm trying to do this additively, if that makes sense, so that existing themes carry on working because they define the right classes in the right place. But or at least existing themes will be backwards compatible. So I don't like, just every time I see it, icon, it's just horrible. It is horrible. I'm going about this the wrong way. I'm undoing these changes. And this happens sometimes. You get to that point where you just you realise what the changes you're making just aren't quite working. or the approach isn't quite right. So what is a better approach? Is this just about the naming? I don't think it is just about the naming, though. Which way round do we do this? Right. We are... Yeah, I think, Noxwell, you're right. Part of this is just trying to think what's the right place to own it, if that makes sense. Because we kind of... There's a bunch of this stuff starts off in the palette, which does feel like the kind of the right place, because it defines how they're drawn over here, and there's, a lot of it does stem from that. And this is interesting, actually. So red UI palette node small. Where's that come from? Who's doing that? I think I know who's doing that. No. Huh. That is coming from... No. Where are we? Oh, that is coming... Okay. Oh, this is, like I said, it's one of those... Oh, quiet, Alexa. Yeah, this is bad enough doing it yourself, talking to yourself, but trying to narrate as you go to the internet is also tricky. Right, let's So here we have palette node small, which is an even smaller icon that gets used in one place in the info sidebar. You see, what I'm going around in circles in my head is whether is red UI palette actually the right place for this to live, because it's kind of where it started and a lot of it already exists. Palette node, that's where a lot of this starts from. And then we have search result node, which where is it? Palette. If I just move search over here, so you can see on the right search result node, and here on the left palette node. Border radius. Interesting. Border radius is different. 5 and 3. Height 25. Yeah. Node border. Yeah, so the palette node is actually designed to be this wide node. It's not designed just to be fact, it's designed to be the appearance of a whole node, not just this shrunk node. Okay, so what we're going to do is, rather than try and scatter it, I'm going to pull it all together into one place. That's what we're going to do to begin with. And I'm going to call it so this one, search node, is the container, well, is the wrapper of the node icon. So this is going to be the node icon block, node icon, node icon, let's stick with that for the moment. Yeah. And inside it, we've got a palette icon container. Which is all of this. So we are shamelessly taking that, but we don't want border right because you can see we were overriding it before. And this is the red UI node. Now this makes sense to have node, when you're over here on the left sidebar, the icon container is this sort of slightly darker bit and yada yada. When you're shrunk down, I don't think we need this many layers. I don't think we need the icon container. Yeah, it doesn't do anything for us. Because these styles, it's basically filling its parent, and it's, oh, we don't want float left. I'll tell you. Do we want float left? Maybe we do. Anyway, this week's instalment of Nick stares puzzled at the screen as he tries to wrangle CSS classes. I mean, if you're sticking around for this, I mean, bravo to you, but I think we're going to go with and this, I mean, this is a great thing. I can always just Control Z everything I've done this evening if this isn't working out. So this node div, we'll no longer be going to call it a UI search result node. We're going to be calling it a node icon. Because of that, the icon container we don't need. We don't need. I think we should be safe sticking the icon URL straight in. Oh, this is curious. I'm curious. So let's see. Now, this is going to look awful. I can tell you that now. Yeah, look, see, it looks wrong there. And yeah, that's because we haven't made it the smaller variant. So let's make it the smaller variant, which was over in tab info. Which is done remind myself of the class name, search result node. Where's search result node in this little lot? Search result node. So this is actually our preferred width and height and margin top. Well, margin top we haven't had before, so I'm just going to comment the big ones out. Oh, where's that? Where's that? Oh, it does this sometimes. Node, oh yeah, NodeMon plays up sometimes and it just crashes in the background. So that'll take a moment or two to spin up again. Okay, well the icon's not aligned properly there, but they're the right size over here, but they're not centered. We've lost our centering, I think. Yeah, we've lost our centering. So text line center. Cool. So that icon's back in the center. Yeah, they're all back in the center. Looking good there. All right. And then we want red UI palette icon container. No, so that's all dealt with. We're going to do the search result, well, the node label bit next. So let's figure out what styles we need to go and copy and paste. So at the moment we've got red UI search result description going on, which the only place we set anything is a huge whacking great margin, but that is only scoped inside the type search. So in fact, we don't need that here. Yeah, again, I think we can simplify this greatly. I think we can go down. So what we've managed to do is we've got rid of the icon container, and now it's just. Oh no, we've not done this one. Okay. Yeah, let's finish what we're doing. Create icon element, and that sets. Okay, so that expects there to be a red UI palette icon in there. So in fact, we're not going to change red UI palette icon. We're going to leave that in place just because there's a bit too much logic that depends on that class. So we're leaving that one alone for the moment. Ooh, no, oops, right. And red UI palette icon looks like this. So it has a width of 20, height 100%. That's all well and good. In our search results, where are we? Type search, that's okay. Not worried about that one. Yeah, I'm still not happy with these CSS names. Trouble is, the more bigger changes I make, the bigger problems there are for the people who create the themes. Hi, Richo. Because, yeah, if we change all of our CSS class names, then that's a breaking change. At the moment, I'm trying to do this in master, so it will go into 1.3. The next maintenance release. If I start mucking around too much with replacing names rather than just adding them, then it has to be a 2.0 breaking change and. But yeah. So. Yeah, and I'm also well aware I've gone on my hour. I don't want to spend all evening doing this. It might prove actually one of those changes that I take the last hour as a successful failed attempt at doing this bit of refactoring, but at least it's helped me wrap my head around what's involved. What's the current structure? Get a better handle of the current structure, and then come back at it with fresh eyes to say, actually, it should be much easier than everything I'm doing. So I don't think we need that content div. I think we can append that to container, and we can give this search result node label. What does search result node label look like? Right, search result node label, it either sets it, by default it sets it to the primary text color, fair enough, or it sets it to the secondary text color. When does it do secondary text color? It does it secondary inside the type search. Okay, so it uses one color in that dialog, but you can see it uses the darker color in that dialog. And over here, it looks like it's using the lighter of the two. Yeah. So why is that then? Is that because of are we changing it? Yes. In fact, we set it to italic. No. We do that if it's disabled. I can. There we set it to secondary. Is this inside type search again? Yeah. Stop. Right. I mean, something that's right for the sort of the UI design in Node-RED is just a big old audit of all the different bits of text we display and just get a better handle on the range of styles. I mean, we did a pretty good job the last refactoring to have a bit more of a consistent set, but still, just the amount of work I'm having to do to sort of cross-reference who's using what is all a bit of a pain. Right. Let's see, what do the search results look like now? Okay, so they're looking a bit dark and they've lost some padding. Let's restore that. Oh, they've still lost their padding. So who knows where their padding has gone. Their colour is coming from something scoped to info outline. So there's definitely something in here to do with node label. Yeah. Secondary text color. What color did I have it? I had it primary here. Okay. Secondary text color. And we're going to give this a margin of, say, 3. No, we want to give it a margin left 3. This one we set back to ready by node label. Right color, no padding, or no margin I should say. Is that because yeah, you know what? This is turning into just this is turning into a big exercise of pixel pushing, which is no fun for anyone. Yeah, they want margin. Why the? There, margin left 32, line height. There we go. That's what I was missing. Yeah, so they look better. Plus, they won't wrap. Cool. Though, does it just my eyes, or does that look like they could be 1 pixel lower? Like I said, literal pixel pushing. I'm pushing those down 1 pixel because I think it will look better. But the main point of this whole exercise is, okay, what have we now got? We've got node icon, palette icon, inside a node label. Good. And then what we can do, what we'll be able to do, but I won't do now, is where we started, this long line which is assigning all these classes under those different scopes, I'll leave that in place. But and by leaving that in place, it means themes will generate those styles, so they will still work with existing versus node red. But because we're defining these brand new styles, which are the new goodness, an updated version of the themes will generate those as well, and the new version of Node-RED will use these classes. So themes will be backward compatible, and in 2.0, which seems a reasonable point to break things, the goal will be to actually remove some of these styles. So themes generated for 2.0, well, yeah, there will be a clear cut-off point between versions. Anyway, usual statement of, if you've stuck around this long whilst I've gibbered on senselessly about CSS styles and pixel pushing, and yeah, you may not, well, I think just getting as far as defining these things is quite meaningful in my head in terms of progress. You know, I've sort of got a better grip in my head now as to what the CSS structure is, what it could be. The fact we've got, we've added our utility, well, we've updated our utility function to create the icon element. Oh, no. Oh. To create the node icon. To include the label. I'm still not 100% on that, whether this is the right way of doing it, but you know, it's all sort of progress. Out of interest, if I go to clipboard, see, here's the get node label. And again, doing a lot of the boilerplate work. So what? What does it get no label text do? It does the same thing. So in fact, what we can do, this is the export dialog. What we're going to do is create node icon and say true include the label, and then we're going to comment out all that, save it, reload it. So that was the export dialog I was just mucking around with. So if I hit export, we can see it still looks good. And if I inspect, you can see it's now the node icon, node label. It is the new stuff, which is good. Here we've got red UI info outline item label, which that's superfluous. We want to get rid of that. But at the moment, that class is needed by the outliner. Okay, let's just do something about that and then we'll call it a night. So here's our utility function. Here you can see is where we're adding info outline item label. We're going to get rid of that. What about quick add node, which was small icons? Yeah, there's plenty of edge cases still to worry about, Jim Bob. We will get there eventually. I hope. Oh, man, I can't type. Red, you do it. Label. So here, just for the outliner, after we call our new utility function and we get it, we then delve into, we go and find the label of what's been generated and we add our extra class to it because we need it elsewhere. The outliner needs to be able to quickly find it. Now that's arguable whether that's really needed, but in fact it's not worked. Because that is meant to, if it gets disabled, it's meant to change its appearance. And yeah, so here look, red UI node label, it's meant to have the outline class and it hasn't. Because I forgot, I missed a dot there. So it wasn't looking for the right thing. Let's try again. So if we reload, expand out, and let's just inspect it. Here you can see, yep, node label, and we've successfully added in that qualifier class. So now when I disable, you can see the appearance of the label changes. And that's due to the outline specific class, not, Although there's something to be said that maybe, if a node is inactive, if it's been disabled, maybe we should be consistent. Because there, if I export it, you can see somewhere in this JSON, the D property is set to true, which means it's disabled. Maybe this ought to show that it's disabled. Oh man, that would be nice, but we're not going to worry about that now. Where were the other places? There was the import dialog, and there was, let's go look at, again, we managed to delete a few lines of code, and that's good. I mean, the whole point of this exercise is reducing code duplication. And in fact, here we are in the export dialog, we don't want info outline item CSS. So that should still look, oh, no. Okay, by getting rid of that item, we've broken the padding. Or no, that'll be, is it padding or margin? Or is it line height? That could be line height's broken. Okay. I'm going to add that back in. I'm not going to dig this down now. I'm tired. I need a cup of tea. And yeah. So this is what I'm going to be doing tomorrow after I've had my vaccine. Sorting out this CSS. But in general terms, we've got 1.3.5. Did that go out last week? What's our current release? What's our current release? Node.org 1.3.4. Okay, so 1.3.4 went out last week. There's a bit of a regression in it related to themes, ironically, with a simple workaround. So, yeah, we'll probably do a fixed release for that this week. But 2.0, trying to get the beta in a good state so we can release a beta of 2.0 this week, touch wood. Yeah, we'll see. There's a bunch of stuff still to go in, but I think we'll have 2.0 in beta for a while, and I expect us to have a second and maybe even a third beta. So whilst I'm trying to get as much into the first beta as possible, equally we don't want to keep delaying it any longer than we need to, knowing we can refresh the beta before the final release. So yeah, 2.0, I mean, the main stuff is around dropping old versions of Node, which is why it's a major version change, and then some major version changes in some of our dependencies, which might cause some changes in behavior. But, you know, we're working hard to not change any behavior. But you never know, because users always seem to manage to find the edge cases that neither our testing nor our development work find. So we'll see. Anyway, I'm going to call it there. Have a very good evening. The rest of your day. If you've watched this long of me wittering on about CSS, I congratulate you. I'll be back next week. Will there be Docker containers for the beta versions? I would like there to be. It depends. We're having a lot of trouble with Docker at the moment. Docker have introduced a limit to how many pools you're allowed to do without paying lots of money for developer accounts, and because we build containers for so many different architectures, and sometimes our builds fail randomly as well as just weird build errors. It's quite hard work to get the Docker containers built for our regular releases. And yeah, so for the beta, we'll see if we will see. But they may not appear as timely as our normal build releases. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I absolutely recognise for some users having the beta in a Docker container makes it far easier for them to try out than doing a full install. So yeah, we'll figure something out for sure. Excellent. Right, I'm going to say good night. Thank you for joining. Do like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and I will be back. Yeah, I'll be back next Monday, 8 p.m. UK time. Do say hi, and we'll do it all over again. Bye for now.